this is the 9-baht Z10. It was originally listed for $2,000, nearly double the cost of a brand new iPhone. But yet that price, it would be considered to be one of the cheaper electric unicycle you can buy.
This week I'm gonna talk about why electric unicycle is so damn expensive. Some of the more common reasons that people talk about, and a reason why I think is the case that I actually don't often hear discussed. Are you ready for a discussion about the economic of electric unicycle? Roll the intro! Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and we'll be BFF forever!
So this was the very first electric unicycle I ever purchased, the IPS i5 for $600. And when I bought it 4 years ago, it was about as much money as I was willing to commit on a brand new hobby that I wasn't even sure if I was going to enjoy. And at the time, I already thought that this was a lot of money, considering that an entry-level electric scooter was more in the $300 to $400 mark.
And the next step up was no easier. I distinctly remember agonizing for weeks over the decision to drop another $2,000 for the 9-baht Z10, which of course I did eventually fall in love with once I actually get my hand on it. But this isn't a discussion on whether or not electric unicycle is worth the generally higher asking price, but why is it that they seem to cost so much more as compared to other class of lightweight personal electric vehicle like an electric scooter or electric bicycle? They certainly are costly. The most expensive model currently available on the market is the Begode Commander at an insane $4,000 asking price. And it isn't an outlier either, as there are plenty of other electric unicycle that is close to that same ask. The Begode Hero is also $4,000, the Sherman Max is $3,500, and so is the Veteran Abrams. And the brand new hype wheel, the Hsiang S20, comes in at a healthy $3,200. And those are prices that far exceed the average electric bicycles or scooter, and are almost on par with what you would expect to pay for a 150cc motorcycle or scooters. And of course, for those bikes, you get 2 wheels, full suspension, ABS, and significantly better build quality and reliability as could be expected from, again, those much larger companies. But that isn't exactly a fair comparison, since any transport powered by electrons tend to cost a good bit more than its similar gasoline counterpart. The new MGI Plus Sport, a more budget-oriented electric moped with a 50cc equivalent performance, as in with a 30 miles per hour max speed, comes in at $4,100 as compared to a $2,500 Honda Metropolitan. Not to mention Tesla and a slew of other brand new car manufacturers, all jostling for attention in the premium auto market. But putting aside the whole saving the earth thing, we can trace the root of that higher cost to one of the most crucial component of the electric motoring system, and that is the lithium-ion battery.
And here we have my Gotway Monster V3 open up, and as you can see, the battery packs, which consists of individual cells assembled together and wrapped in a protective film, occupy just about every single bit of space available inside of the wheel enclosure. As a matter of fact, this is actually a mod wheel, as in that there is actually an additional pack split up and used to fill in every single remaining space so that we can squeeze out every last bit of range and performance out of this wheel. And as one of, if not the most expensive component to any electric motoring system, you can almost correlate the price of any electric vehicle to the size of its battery pack.
A Kaboo Wolf King with a 2000 watt-hour battery pack comes in at $3,000 as compared to the Hsiang S20, which has a 2200 watt-hour battery pack at $3,200. As a matter of fact, by that metric, Electric Unicycle has actually traditionally been on the lower end of the dollar to watt-hour ratio. The veteran Sherman, for instance, which was introduced at $2,800, had carried 3,200 watt-hour worth of cells.
That economy is largely due to the general simplicity of the Electric Unicycle platform, since after all you need is a single wheel, a motor, a controller, and a battery pack to power it all, and a case to keep it all together. But as additional features like suspension are slowly added over time, we are slowly seeing price efficiency start to veer in the other direction, as grumpy long-time Electric Unicycle rider will loudly remind you whenever given the chance.
Honestly, I think the reason behind the perception that Electric Unicycle are expensive are that there are very few lower end and cheaper Electric Unicycle. If you want in on an electric scooter, you have a huge variety of choices below $500. Heck, you can even buy one for less than $300 if that's all you can afford. But if you are looking for an Electric Unicycle below the $500 mark, your choice is, well, zero. The cheapest new Electric Unicycle you can buy is the 67-volt version of the Gotway M10-3 at $650, and yes, it is technically an electric unicycle,
but at a 10-inch size and a max speed of only 18 miles an hour, it's so far from what an average electric unicycle is actually capable of that it is like trying to learn how to ride a bicycle by riding one of these.
And the reason why there are so few budget easy choices is that by its nature, self-balancing vehicles rely on motor output just to maintain basic function of, well, balancing.
Like an airplane, a minimum level of complexity is required for it to simply perform its most basic function in a non-life-threatening fashion, that is. As a result, for an electric unicycle, performance and safety is actually intertwined in a way that is unlike any other personal electric vehicle. For instance, even the $650 67-volt M10 comes with an 800-watt motor, which is significantly larger than what you would expect from a cheaper or even similarly priced electric scooters.
Wherein a high-performance e-bike comes with motor in the 500 to 1000 watt range, a medium-range electric unicycle like the Emotion V11 runs a motor more than twice that size with twice the battery to drive said motor. But neither can component costs alone explain the high price of the electric unicycle.
As in all things in a free market, you can only charge as much for a product as there are willingness to pay for it. So how is it that a product made by a tiny Chinese company that nobody ever heard of is able to command pricing on par, if not exceed, that of premium product from well-known companies like the iPhone?
The reason why that is, I think, is the same driver that allowed Harley Davidson to charge upward of $36,000 for a motorcycle, a combination of brand recognition, community, and heritage. And although Electric Unicycle is still missing the backing of well-known brand, Segway 9bot, for instance, exited the market 3 years ago.
The growth of Electric Unicycle community has also been absolutely mind-boggling. Thanks to a proliferation of online medias and influencers and an explosion of dedicated Telegram group filled with fanatical electric enthusiasts.
And every day, all around the world in cities large and small, including places like Saudi Arabia and Philippines, riders gather for organized or spontaneous group rides. And all of a sudden, when you meet 10 other people who also drop $3,000 on a wheel, it no longer feels so very excessive. And finally, there is the questions of heritage. As a Gen Xers that grew up in an urban area, I never developed the kind of affinity that my parents' generation have for gasoline engine. Instead, everything I love, things like computer, video games, mobile tech, and electronic gadgetries, all ran on electricities, and the electric unicycle just feels like a natural extension of all of that.
As a matter of fact, MOSFET, which are essentially giant transistors, governs the flow of electricity through an EUC controller and allow for rapid phase shift and translate the self-balancing algorithm into actual motion. So although the electric unicycle is a relatively new thing, if you're a nerd and had ever put together your own computer, a lot of it is probably going to look very familiar to you.
With difference being the amount of power you're dealing with. Instead of hundreds, you're now dealing with thousands of watts. And the problem with the things that tech nerds love is that, as you may have noticed, that over the past 10 years, people who are into technologies, the nerds, had done rather well for themselves. Reasonable, since technology had for a large part fueled the growth of economy all around the world. And with that newfound affluence comes the willingness to pay a lot more for the things that we truly love. From shockingly high price for a retro collectible video game cartridge to $3,000 graphic cards, and of course, well, this. Confluence of all those factors mean that EUC will likely stay expensive, if not get even more expensive in the future. So what do you think? Is the ever-rising price tag turning you off on the electric unicycle, or are they necessary part of getting the latest and greatest bleeding-edge tech? Well, that is what the comment section below is for. And you know what? Aha! I somehow managed to trick you into wasting another 15 minutes of your life, but I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my supporter on Patreon. Please check out the link in the video description below if you enjoy and like to support my work. And as always, as much as we all love Electric Unicycle, the only way for us to get better wheels is to grow as a community. So tell your friend, teach them how to ride, and get them hooked. Until the next video, thank you.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, or drop out.